tell us how you came to Emmanuel.
Okay. Well, in 2010, I went to a church service at what was then Vineyard Grace Fellowship, and Wade and Lourdes happened to be there sharing their testimony. Other groups had been to the orphanage before that, Ken and Linda Kilikowski and Brad Kittle and Pam Kittle, and they invited Wade and Lourdes back to talk about the orphanage. And so I was sitting there listening to their testimony, and the Holy Spirit said, I want you to go to Honduras. And I said, I don't want to go. And I just said I wasn't trying to have a conversation with the Lord right then and there. And so I continued to listen to their testimony. And I went home and I told the Lord I wasn't going to get in a fit about finding confirmation or anything like that. If this was something He really wanted me to do, when I woke up the next day, I would know. And so I went home and I went to bed. And I woke up the next day and I said, crap. And then I called the church and I spoke to Ken Kilikowski and I told him I felt like the Lord wanted me to go on their next mission trip to Orphanage Emmanuel. And he said, well, we'd like to get to know you a little bit before we take you out of the country. And so I, at that time, started to do some fundraising and things like that to get to know the body. And the first time I came to Orphanage Emmanuel was in August 2011.
Okay. What do you do here?
I am the nurse in charge of the medical side of Orphanage Emmanuel. And so I am in charge of all medicines that children need to take. I'm in charge of all doctor's appointments that children need to go to. I'm in charge of advocating for our children to get the medical needs that they need. I'm in charge of organizing the staff here that help get people to and from the hospital. So if it has anything to do with medical or medicine, it comes to me first.
Vivir la vida es mucho más que alimentar sentimientos y emociones. Vivir para uno mismo es aburrido a la larga. Vivir para otros puede llevarte a la frustración. Pero vivir para Dios, esa es la mejor manera de invertir la vida. Si quieres tomar la iniciativa de tener una vida diferente, si quieres comenzar a vivir esa conexión con el Creador,
What are 3 things you want us in the U.S. to know about living at Emmanuel?
It's not a vacation. I think Emmanuel is very beautiful, and when people see it, they see the beauty in the care of. We do take very good care of it. Our kids take very good care of the land and the property, and I think that they forget that this is a very corrupt, evil nation, and that corruption, even though they can't physically see it, the detriments that it has on this nation is on our children that live here. That's one. 2 more. I think the second is that our kids are like any other teenager. You know, they have the same struggles, the same conflicts. The difference is they don't have parents to help guide them through those struggles and conflicts. And so it takes them longer to come to terms with what it means to be an adult and to grow. And so you may see somebody that's 12, but they act like they're 8. And so part of that is, you know, them still not being able to figure out exactly what to do with their emotions and how their bodies change and things like that. And so you can't compare our children emotionally to a child that's the same age in the United States. And so if somebody comes here to visit and they're 16, they expect our 16-year-olds to be socially equal to them, and they're not. They're developmentally in that area a little bit delayed, not because there's something wrong with them, but because they're forced into adulthood very early. And so the decisions that they have to make, they don't get to be a kid sometimes. And so they skip certain stages, and then they come here, and all of a sudden they're told you can just be a kid now. You don't have to be an adult anymore. And they have to kind of refigure out where they are in their life. We see that sometimes with younger children that come that are the oldest in their family, and they've been taking care of everyone, but maybe they're 8 years old, and so they've been the mom of the house for the last 3 years, and then all of a sudden they're placed here, and they don't have to be the mom anymore. But then they become the mom of whatever house that they're living in, and you have to like slowly break them of that responsibility that you don't have to tell people what to do. You can just be a kid, go play, have fun. And that's a struggle for some of them sometimes. 3, we all serve the same God, even though we're in Honduras. Jesus Christ is the same here, there, United States. We need him just as much here as anyone does there. And Honduras exists because the Lord allows it to. And so rather than get caught up in the negatives of this country, I get caught up in what Christ can do, because if he wanted this nation to stop existing, he could do that, and he hasn't chosen to do that. And so he chose to allow us to be here and to live here and to live for him here, and that is what makes him sovereign. And so I don't look down on the people here, on the nation here, for what they may lack or what negative characteristics they may have, because at the end of the day, God created this nation just like he created every other nation, and he gave it to us to mandate. And so if there's any fault or failure here, it's on us. It's not on a nation or a culture. It's on those of us that are believers, that call on Jesus, because we're the ones that spread his word. And so I don't look at Honduras and culturalistically as a negative. It has a very bad rap around the world. Most Latino cultures look down on Honduras. We're considered the poorest of the poor. But God doesn't separate us that way. He looks at hearts. And so I try not to stereotype. It's very easy to fall into stereotypes, and I try to look at the hearts of those in front of me. And that's what I try to teach my kids when they have that stigmatism. I'm from Honduras, and I'm this, I'm that because I'm from Honduras. And it doesn't matter where you're from, it matters who you know. And so if they know Christ, he'll open the doors that need to be opened in their life to do the things that he wants them to do. It won't matter where they're from.
What are ways we can help support you?
No longer VGF, it's now Cornerstone. Cornerstone, I think, does a very good job financially supporting me. I can't complain in that area. I can't say that I'm in need financially. There's always more that I can do, obviously. Nothing's free. But I believe that that's for the church to pray and ask the Lord where that might need to change. And so, I had carpal tunnel surgery, and I did not once have to call and ask for anything. When I got my residency, I prayed about it, asked the Lord, if you want me to get my residency, then, provide the funds. And next day there was $1,000 American dollars in my checking account. And so I don't let money dictate me anymore. If you want to give me more money, I'll find and put use to it. So I'm not saying don't give me money, but I'm not saying that there's a specific dollar amount that has to come in order for the Lord to do whatever he's going to do. At the end of last year, they paid off my school debt, the church did. They were in the plus and they wanted to give to somebody, so they contacted me. I want to say it was either last year or the year before, I can't remember. But they asked me for the bottom dollar, and I mailed it to them, and they mailed it, and so I am debt-free. I have no credit card debt, I have no school debt, so I'm very grateful for that. Obviously prayer support. I think that we underestimate the enemy. I think we underestimate how he comes, and I'm not exempt from his attacks just because I'm here. And so we live in a very oppressed nation, and it's oppressed in a lot of ways, but it's tangible. You can feel it, and it gets on you. And if you're not careful, you start to not recognize it. And so you have to be prayerful about the environment in which you live. And so, sometimes I just have to stop and I have to remind myself where I live and that there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not, I don't need to do anything. I just need to stop and ask the Lord to cleanse me, I guess would be the word, and cleanse my area. Sometimes it's the clinic, sometimes it's my house. And just invite the Holy Spirit to come, because this nation is dark and there is a lot of spiritual warfare. There's spiritual warfare everywhere, but in this nation it's a little bit more tangible, and you can definitely feel it, and it can be weighty sometimes. And if we're not careful, we won't know where that weight comes from, and we won't know how to walk in spite of it. So same thing I said the other night is wisdom in decision making. Every medical decision that has to be made, I have to make it, unless it's made for me, which it can. Somebody breaks their arm and there's a bone protruding out. Obviously we know you need to take care of that, but sometimes I don't have the answer, and I'm expected to, and it's a very tough place to be. And so I don't have a problem saying I don't know. It's not anything like that. It's just when you're the go-to person and you don't know, then what do you do? And so even if I don't know, I have to find the answer for that person. And that's not always easy. Sometimes we send kids down the wrong path trying to get them well. And it just takes time to find the right doctor, to find the right treatment that works for them. And it may be the same in the United States, but I think how we go about it's different. I think there's more access in the United States to healthcare than there is in this country. And so it's a cash society, so if you can't pay for it, you're not going to get anything from anyone. That's why the death mortality rate is so low. People don't live long lives here because, if you can't pay for healthcare or pay for medicine, you're not going to be able to take it. And so definitely wisdom in decision making, and overall, sometimes my opinion's asked on how to run the medical side of Emmanuel, and I'm just a nurse. There's a lot more levels to healthcare than nursing. There's administration, there's doctors, there's different levels, and so I can only give my opinion in the levels that I know. And so there are levels here that are, I guess you would say, are missing maybe, and I have to kind of fill the gap, and sometimes those gaps are very large.
What has been one of your favorite things about living here and serving?
I think one of my favorite things is that it revealed my heart for the Father. I don't have to question where I stand. I don't have to question, is this what God has for me, or is there more, or should I be doing something different? We go through our life and we try to figure out what God wants from us, or what we're supposed to do, or how we're supposed to walk. And I don't have any doubts in that area. Not that I doubted it before. I think everywhere I lived and the jobs that I had were all part of His master plan. But I don't think about being anywhere else, and I don't think about what life would be like anywhere else. Those thoughts don't cross my mind. Everybody wants to know, when and how long and this and that. And those thoughts don't cross my mind. Like, this is my home. This is where I live. And so God can move me, absolutely. And I would have to go if He told me to. I don't foresee that. I don't get that sensing from Him. And so when you're obedient in the little things in life, it's a lot easier to be obedient in the harder things. And I think obedience precedes obedience. And so because I was obedient in other areas, I was obedient to go to nursing school, I was obedient in some of the jobs that I've had. There's jobs I wanted to quit, and the Lord didn't allow me to do that, and I stayed because that's where He wanted me to be. And so when you're obedient in the smaller things in life, then the bigger life changes just come more naturally, I think. And I think that this place has a very strong ability to reveal your true heart if you're willing to allow it. I think you can ignore it, but I also think that that's on you at that point. And so, a second thing I like is it forces you into reconciliation, because you live with everyone that you work with, and so there's nowhere to hide. And so if you have a disagreement with someone, or you don't like someone, or you don't get along with someone, you have two choices. You can work it out, or you can be fake. Those are your options. And I'm not saying that we're perfect at it by any means. We're all human. But I think for the most part, at least in my personal experiences, it shows me what Christ meant by walking in love and accepting people for who they are and where they are. Because it's very easy in the United States to walk away from people. If you don't like your job, you quit. If you don't like your church, you leave. And so we don't have we don't have that opportunity here. I mean, you can leave, but it's a different kind of leaving if you leave here, because you're leaving a lot of responsibility. You're letting go of a lot of things that you said that were important to you. So to just walk away isn't as easy to walk away from something this large. And so I'm not going to let a disagreement with somebody cause me to walk away from what God has called me to do. And so it forces reconciliation, and I think that's a good thing.
What has been one of the most difficult things about living here?
I think it's the realization that that you're on your own. I've always been somebody that I think walks through life kind of a loner. People who know me know that. But it's not because I was without friends or anything like that. But it's different here because we all have a job to do, and we all have a very full plate. And so, yes, we're all in it together, but we all have such great responsibilities in our individual areas that it doesn't leave a lot of room for fellowship. It's not that we're without it. I mean, we get together whenever their teams aren't here. We have fellowship night every Wednesday. We have something to eat and play games in the gym. I mean, we try. It's not like we're without it. But the medical side of Orphanage Emmanuel, that complete entity is my responsibility. I can't pawn that off on anybody, and I don't have anybody that can carry the weight of that. That weight the Lord put on me. He put it on me to carry. God is well aware of the responsibilities that He's placed on me. And so who am I to say that I can't carry the weight? Because it's not me that carries it anyway. It's Christ that carries it through me. And so I think that this place allows you to become more dependent on the Lord if you allow it to, because the weight is very heavy. And just because it's heavy doesn't mean it's wrong. It doesn't mean that it's not of the Lord. It does not mean that it's not of Him. And so, I don't have the weight that Dave and Lydia have. They have a completely different weight. I don't have the weight that Santos has. He has a different weight. He has the whole weight of the farm and making sure that our kids get the food that they need, the nutrients that they need, and that's his weight. And he's, second in command. And so we all have a weight that's on us. The office has the legal weight on them of making sure that we're all in the legal boundaries of what the government says we're supposed to be in. And so our paths will cross each other throughout the day, because maybe I need to talk to them about a legal matter, and maybe they need to talk to me about a medical matter. But at the end of the day, the weight of the office is on the office, and the weight of the medical entity is on me. And so it can get heavy, and it can get heavy for all of us. And so if you don't have a place to rest in that weight, I think it can be hard.